episode 4. Stop it! Silent Demelza laughed at me. Anyway, how are you, Alice?
I'm really good. I was on holidays this week, so I'm feeling very relaxed.
Yeah, it's alright for some, isn't it?
Yeah.
But she didn't get a tan though, so it's okay.
I was about to say I'm really tanned.
The first thing I said to Alice when she walked into the office this morning was like, oh, where's your tan? She was not happy with me.
No, I was not happy. I worked very hard. I was there for 6 days, slaving away on the beach.
If this was Silent Demelza, her tan would be at least 5 times darker than what you are right now.
That's because she's not Irish. It's a problem. Do you know those memes that they have where it's like a beach? It's a picture of a beach and it's like, oh, me and my friends when we go to the beach and there's this nice tanned kind of couple in the foreground.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, isn't that nice? And then it's like, no, usually a GIF and then it starts like flashing and actually then you notice that there's this crowd of pale people blending into the sand in the background. That's where I come from.
Actually, it's a glaring white thing in the corner that's blinding me.
Yeah. That's either. Yeah. Whichever.
Is it GIF or GIF?
I say GIF.
I think it's GIF, right?
No.
I think
GIF?
I used to call it GIF.
No, GIF.
No, because I think I used to call it GIF, but it's actually a GIF.
No, because GIF is a J. It's the stuff that you used to clean with.
Yeah.
But then they had to rename it ZIF because
No, wait, wasn't
European people couldn't say GIF.
Hang on, wasn't it the other way around?
No.
Okay. Wait, because were they saying
from GIF to SIF?
Were they saying HIF?
No, they were saying SIF.
What country says?
Oh my god, they did it. they did an ad. I remember it so well. It was probably when I was maybe like 10, and it went out on TV, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, GIF. It's the stuff you
But
used
the
to
Europeans
like
are
clean your
idiots, so
countertop." And they were in loads of countries in Europe, and they were going around with the microphone, being like, "What's this called?" And they're like, "SIF." Like really confidently and like shaking their heads and smiling and looking really European. So
ding ding ding. Silent Demelza fact. The inventor of the widely used web illustration declared it should be pronounced GIF, like the brand of peanut butter, rather than with a hard G sound. In Spanish, J is like huh. So I was right. In Spain, they would have been going hip.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, because if it's a J, they would have been going hip.
I don't think it works if the G is at the start of a word.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did it? Wait. Oh, okay.
Because, like, what's that? Gabriela. That's a Spanish name. Rodrigo y Gabriela.
Wait, hang on. No, it's the cleaning product.
No, but you're talking about G.
Yeah, no, but no, I said J. In Spanish, J is like H. So the cleaning product Jif in Spain.
like Javier.
Yeah, in Spain it would have been hip.
Okay, yeah.
And because they don't have strong Fs, right? So it would have been it's like a little sneeze.
Like when you almost sneeze, but then you don't.
It's really annoying.
Yeah.
Or like, you know when you're trying to hold in a sneeze or a cough and it comes out really weird and you're like, Alice fell off a chair.
I think I've broken the chair.
Should we introduce our guests?
Yes.
Today we have friends of Silent Demelza's.
Which is kind of great because
it is great.
They get to tell us how they know her, and because she's silent, she can't give any input. Dun, dun, dun.
Can't wait for the stories.
Yeah.
Alright, so we have Lucy and Jenny.
Welcome.
Hello. Welcome.
So, would you like to tell us how you know Silent Demelza?
Well, tell us who you are first and how you know Silent Demelza.
I'm Lucy. Me and Demelza did the same course at uni. And we had a big heated debate last time I was here about how we actually met. Because we met at a freshers costume party. And the theme was like films. And I went as Harriet Potter, which was debated as not being a costume. Because it wasn't. And I can't remember what you were now, because we had a big debate about what you were.
Who's Harriet Potter?
I just went as Harry Potter.
Oh, Harry!
A female version. So I just drew a lightning bolt on my head and then wore some brown glasses. But I mean, my outfit was just a blue t-shirt and a black skirt. I didn't put much effort in, but I didn't care. And the pre-drinks were at Demelza's house, and my friend took me. We literally had this conversation last time I saw you about this, and Vicky tagged you in the photo. Do you remember?
Rack your brains there.
Yeah, that was at Bath Uni.
Oh, lovely. I've never been to Bath.
Me neither.
It's lovely.
I hear it's lovely.
Yeah, I was going to go for a weekend recently, but it's so expensive.
Really?
Like, even the not fancy hotels are really expensive.
Yeah, I actually used to work in hospitality in Bath. They're expensive. Even like a travel lodge was like 80 quid.
Yeah.
Not even in the very central location.
Is it just because it's so picturesque?
Yeah, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Ah, sure enough. That adds an extra £40 onto everything.
It really does.
So I'm Jenny, and I think I met Demelza after uni, but I did go to Bath as well.
Yeah, me and Jenny met at uni.
How did we meet? I don't know.
Just about.
Just about.
Yeah, we're specific.
Yeah.
And what do you guys do?
I'm a structural engineer.
Whoa.
So are you technically lay?
My what?
Would you consider yourself a
layman?
scientist?
Yeah.
Oh. I actually thought about this question because I felt like you were going to ask me.
She prepared an answer.
She did.
Oh.
And I feel like an engineer is kind of a scientist, but more
You're
an
STEM.
immediate.
Yeah.
Immediate. So
Like
it's kind of-
practical.
yeah.
We're cousins.
Cousins.
STEM cousins.
Yeah.
Distantly related.
Yeah.
What does a structural engineer do?
So I work on buildings. You can work on bridges. Structural engineers do bridges as well.
Uh-huh.
So I always describe it as an architect designs how it's going to look
Mm-hmm.
inside and outside, and then the structural engineer makes it stand up.
Very cool.
Very
And put
poetic.
ideas into reality.
Oh.
Nice.
So we have this car park near the Sainsbury's near my house, right?
Okay.
Which I'm assuming was helped by the structural engineer on where to put all the pillars and stuff. Is that what you guys do?
Yeah, the columns.
Yeah, okay, so this guy did a fucking terrible job. Like, they are so big and so wide that they come into like a third of the space. So you're trying to back your car in and it's terrible.
Yeah, it's
But that
poorly
might be-
designed.
But is that not so the roof doesn't collapse on your head?
Yeah, but they don't
Maybe
need to be
no-
that big.
Everyone
Well,
knows
maybe
how
they
big
do
a
for
standard
surface
car
area.
parking space is. So
Exactly.
you just design it to span that.
Is that not more them trying to get like more money? They're just greedy. Oh wait, no, it's a Sainsbury's.
Yeah.
Ignore. I was like trying to get more money out of the car parking.
Yeah, so then I ended up, the first time I ever scratched another person's car was
in
trying to
there.
park in that car park. And I felt so terrible. Yeah, I went on
Because
a
of
massive...
the column.
Yeah,
That's just
so
bad
I just
design.
couldn't get my car in.
Did you leave a note?
No, I went
On
on
the
a
column.
mission to go find whose car it was.
Oh, that was nice.
Yeah, I found them.
Did you call them, walk up and down the aisles in Sainsbury's, shouting their reg?
Red Fiesta.
05ZY24.
Where the fuck is your car from?
Sorry, I started out.
1976.
I started out on Irish reg, then I realised nobody would get it, so I tried to turn it around, but obviously not that well. Our regs make a lot more sense in Ireland
Why?
because we have the year, and then the letter of the county, and then what number of the cars.
We have the year.
Where
The third and fourth character.
Yeah, in the first bit.
in the middle.
So it'll be like LB03 is 2003 before June.
But then how do you
Before
deal with
September.
like the
Yeah.
90s?
This was brought in the year 2000. I used to work in the car industry, so
there you go.
You've worked in a
You've
lot of
worked in a lot,
industries.
yeah.
Oh.
Interesting
yes,
industry.
Demel's has brought the picture up. She was, as our friend described, a wench. I think she was going for pirate, but she. Oh no, sorry, Demel's is a pirate. Our other friend Carrie is the wench. I got confused. I'm obviously Harry Potter, hair slicked back. Our friend has got a pretty good Superman costume on, with a Superman top underneath a shirt.
And he's smoking.
Is he?
He looks
No,
like he's
that's the
smoking.
cursor.
That's a mouse.
I was like, we're inside.
I was like, I'm pretty sure Superman doesn't smoke.
Have you spotted the Joker, anyone?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, just nice.
Creeping. Oh god. So that's when we first met. Me and Dee weren't particularly close, as you can see from that photo. She's not touching me.
Samantha doesn't
She's
touch
touching
anyone.
herself wrong. Touch you.
Yeah.
Cool, so what do you do?
I work in PR. So I help brands get in the news, basically. But I am a scientist. I did a science degree.
Oh, go on.
So I did the same degree as Demelza, natural sciences, majoring in chemistry.
Oh, shit.
I did like a year-long lab project, which I hated. Hated it.
Nice. So you left.
Yeah, I liked it for a bit, and then I was like, I'm over this now.
So we have two lay guests which are actually scientists.
Yeah, but I mean, when's the last time? What would you guys say your relationship is with science now?
I don't think of myself as a scientist. I say an engineer is like, but I don't think of myself as a scientist.
Okay.
And I did physics at AS level, and that's the last I did in science.
Okay.
I say I'm like, trained as a scientist,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not one now.
You're out of practice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the training in my back pocket.
Oh, yeah.
But now,
to whip out when you need it
yeah,
next.
but PR is my vocation.
Oh, yeah. PR seems really fun. Is that one of those things you hate hearing? Is that like really annoying because you're like, oh, but it's
Yeah,
hard.
I imagine you at parties all the time and getting drunk and meeting celebs.
And like going to events.
Yeah,
Is there a lot
I
of
basically
events?
imagine you as Sam from Sex and the City.
What are you specifically in PR for?
I work in the agency I work in. We're divided by sector, so we do energy and industrials.
Oh, cool.
So like one of the big 6 energy companies is a client.
Mm-hmm.
We saw their advert earlier, if you remember.
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
And you told us nothing.
Yeah, no, I said nothing. I work in like transport, a cruise ship company, a car company, all sorts of stuff.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah. So there is lots of going to events, but it's mainly corporate events, like conferences. And there is getting drunk and stuff, but that's mainly extracurricular. Like people in my agency do stuff that you'd think of, which is like making boxes full of cool stuff to send to people.
Uh-huh.
But we don't really, I don't really do that much stuff.
Okay. Interesting.
Cool. Can you send us boxes of free stuff?
If you become a big enough influencer, yeah.
It's
In
fine,
the
we're-
travel space.
Did you hear that we're actually now officially famous in every continent except for Antarctica?
But we have a listener from space.
Or Russia.
ISS.
We're not quite sure which.
He has no country, so we don't know. We think it's a Russian.
That's so poetic. He has no country.
Demelza's shaking her head. Are we not being politically correct, Demelza?
You're saying that he has no country. It reminds me of that. Have you guys heard of this massive conspiracy theory / ghost tale about this guy who randomly turns up at some airport? I can't remember all the details. And he says, I'm from this country. I can't remember the name of the country. And then he's like, he shows them this passport and everything. And the guys are like, this passport doesn't belong to any country.
Was it Tom Hanks?
I was like, it's a terminal.
No, wait, no, this is the thing. But then they like go through all the CCTV and stuff later because this man just disappears, and they see him on there, and they have pictures of all his passports and stuff, but he doesn't exist, and his country doesn't exist.
Are you sure it's not Tom Hanks?
No, this is a big conspiracy thing. I'm telling you.
It was a big film, like...
Maybe.
It was quite famous.
You might get confused.
He wandered around really sad. Had to shave in the bathroom.
He had to eat ketchup packets. It always used to get me.
I don't know.
He eats
And then-
ketchup on crackers. It's awful.
It's so sad. I love Tom Hanks. He's one of my favourite people. So anyway,
Should we get started?
will we begin?
Yeah.
Okay.
On to the science.
So, I'm going to read out the title of the paper first and give you just a little bit of background, and then you can launch in with your burning questions, which I'm sure you're going to have. So, the title of this paper is Assessing the Influence of Vegan, Vegetarian and Omnivore-Orientated Westernized Dietary Styles on Human Gut Microbiota, a cross-sectional study. So,
Are the vegans going to hate us after this?
no, I don't think so.
I don't know, I might say some shit about vegans.
Well, then they might hate us, but I don't think they're going to hate us through the paper.
They haven't got the energy to reply anyway. They're also...
Okay,
Probably
safe
can't
to
put
say
that
they
in.
hate us.
I just think veganism is so stupid. Don't keep that in.
Don't you get some vegans as well that are really funny about taking prebiotics?
Because, they're like, what are they? They're the people that don't eat fruit unless it falls off a tree.
Isn't that on Fruitarian?
Yeah,
Notting Hill.
I think so. It is. I love that movie.
Do you know what I do hate? Quick
Yeah.
side note. Vegetarians that wear leather. So annoying.
Yeah.
Is anyone here?
No.
Just anyway, carry on.
Then I don't know how I don't know, I feel like some of them do have an answer to that. Like, what is it? Like, what?
They want good shoes.
The environmental reasons,
They
maybe?
last longer.
Yeah, it's better quality.
True.
I don't really know.
Yeah, maybe.
Not sure.
Okay.
I don't mind vegans. It's just when people like say that their kids are vegan and that they love it.
On the vegan children, which I also find really annoying, vegetarian pets.
Yes, and vegan pets as
Vegan
well.
Weird, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Particularly dogs who are supposed to be
Yeah.
like a carnivores, and cats.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
made to be vegetarian.
That's animal abuse.
It is, yeah. And child abuse if you make your kid a vegan. Honestly, that's so dangerous.
I agree.
Especially if they're really young. They need like all the
Calcium.
calcium and the... Okay, but they'll argue the only thing that you can't get from a vegan diet is B12. Whereas now, actually, they're saying that you can get it from seaweed, I think, and nutritional yeast.
Like hemp.
I really want to
Yeah.
try nutritional yeast.
Basically, apparently it tastes like cheese.
Yeah, that's their cheese
Yeah.
replacement, right?
Yeah. But nutritional yeast just makes me, like, you know the way, like, yeast infections? I don't want to eat yeast.
So then every time you eat some bread, you're there thinking, oh my god.
I know, but you don't think, oh, yum, some yeasty bread. Like, that's not a thing. Whereas, like, nutritional yeast is like, I just can't.
I just love yeast, but I wish it was more nutritional. It's empty calories.
I can't deal. Okay, so back to the paper, briefly. So yeah, this paper is a cross-sectional study, so it's not interventional, so they didn't like gather a group of people and say, okay, you guys are going to be vegans, you guys are going to be omnivores, you guys are going to be vegetarians. They like just basically found groups of these people and then followed them up to see what their microbiota were like. And as I mentioned in past papers, the best method for measuring the microbiota is poop. Ding ding ding.
My favourite thing in the world.
Okay, that's a bit weird.
Favourite-
Moving on.
In fact, my favourite activity in the world.
Okay, fair enough.
There we go.
So yeah, they basically...
Okay, Lucy's shaking her head at me. Everyone knows that there is very few better feelings than doing a really good poo.
It can be really, really satisfying. Okay, so they gathered up a group of people and their goals for the study were to see what effects that these different feeding behaviours had on the composition of your gut microbiota, and also secondarily whether you could actually look at a person's gut microbial profile, so like the kind of readout that you would get from analysing their poo, and whether you could like look at that and determine whether that person was an omnivore, a vegan, or a vegetarian. Because by doing that, they were kind of trying to justify some other dietary studies that would like break up their population into people who would be vegetarian, vegan, or omnivores, or even so much as like they wouldn't recruit two groups because they think that their microbiota would be too different, and that would be a confounding factor in like some other kind of, say if they were trying to actually look at the effect of probiotics, so they were feeding these people probiotics, but they'd be like, oh, but their baseline diet, so whether they're a vegetarian, a vegan, or a omnivore, would have an effect, so they think that would kind of interrupt any effect of the probiotics. So that was why they were doing it, to see if that is possible. So they basically recruited, the study was conducted in Italy, and they recruited people in kind of an interesting way.
Do you get many vegans
I
in
was just
Italy?
thinking that.
Because Italian food is not vegan friendly.
Cheese and meat.
Yeah.
No, it's really not actually. But they managed to find some, and how they found them was they recruited them from the Italian Society of Vegetarian Nutrition. And
well, if you're going to find any vegans, you'll find them there.
yeah, and wait for it, the second one, the Italian League Against Vivisection.
What's vivisection?
Isn't it interesting that people in the League Against Vivisection are taking part in scientific research?
But then is that kind of like when you say to a vegetarian or a vegan, would you breastfeed your child? Do you know what I mean?
No.
How's that?
Because it's like they're against like animal products, but like because it's their own body that can make
Do
the decision.
vegans swallow?
Oh god, I don't know.
No.
Ask your friend Beth.
Okay.
I'm sure that's a conversation you want to have.
I'm genuinely curious.
No, because isn't their issue more that the animals aren't like treated very well and don't have a say, whereas they have a say in that. Very much.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say about the breast milk
Okay.
and about the research. So they're
Okay.
putting themselves forward, whereas their thing is animals don't have a choice.
Right, okay.
I like how they're a league as well.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
It just sounds more fun.
It's a very strong word.
Yeah.
Like
It's like
the
they're
league.
like a superhero
Yeah.
town.
Yeah, like they come together and have big discussions about how to save the world.
Yeah, in their cloaks and like
Yeah.
and broccoli sticks.
Broccoli. Okay. So yeah. They also recruited their omnivores, which probably wouldn't have been that difficult, but just because I guess they were recruiting the other two groups from like, you know, a league and a society. So they recruited the omnivore participants were recruited from the Regional Service for Food Hygiene. Jump in with any questions at any point, also.
I
So far, so good. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know what microbiota are?
Isn't that your... Ooh, I'm
But I
scared I'm
just
going to say
saying,
it now and get it wrong.
No, don't worry about getting it wrong.
All the bacteria that's inside your gut.
Yeah.
Okay.
Spot on.
And everyone's is different?
Yes,
Okay.
more or less. Like, there's a lot of variation. So, a big thing is, like, trying to identify the ideal microbiota, because they're being, like, associated with so many different things. So, like, your immune system is really influenced by them. Obviously, your gut health, your brain, you have this whole gut-brain axis. So, like, you could have depressed microbiota, which leads your brain to be a bit depressed, etc.
What was the extension of the gut-brain gut-brain microbiota? I
Yeah.
guess,
So, they knew that there was interaction between, like, people with IBS and stuff was it IBS? Were more predisposed to depression.
But
No, people with depression were...
Ding ding ding.
Yeah?
Silent Demel's effect. The actual definition of vivisection is the practice of performing operations on live animals for the purpose of experimentation or scientific research.
Live animals. You don't even anesthetize them, man.
It needs
No,
to
you
ties
can
them.
be alive and anaesthetised.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was getting really concerned there.
Super scared of having surgery.
Yeah, no, that was... Oh, like that movie where he's awake, but he's under anesthetic, but he's awake. Has no one ever seen it?
No.
It's like one of those movies where... have you ever heard of it? It's like when you're anesthetiized, but your mind is still... You know everything that's going on.
No.
But you can't move. You're like
This
paralyzed.
is like a Scrubs episode or something.
I saw it
No,
on
it's a
Crazy
real
Anatomy
thing.
once. It was on Crazy Anatomy once, I think.
Yeah.
So it must be real.
Yeah. Same as the pregnant man.
It's a thing. It's definitely
Was he-
happened.
was
he was transgender.
Okay,
Yeah.
then that makes sense.
Has anyone? What was that Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where he
Oh,
has a
I know.
baby?
Yeah.
Silent Demelza.
He is a man in that, though.
Yeah, he's a man and he gets pregnant and has a baby bump.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. It's really old. It's from like the kindergarten cop times. Oh, Junior. It's called Junior.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
he names the baby Junior.
I think so.
Oh.
Anyway, sorry.
So, yeah, basically they recruited all these people. They had like 101 people in total. So when I looked up the other...
Like the Dalmatians.
Why 101?
Yeah.
101.
Yeah, that one is very important. So they had 101, 26 vegans, 32 vegetarians, and 43 omnivores. And the criteria were they had to be strict vegetarians, vegans, or omnivores for at least 12 months prior to the study. They had to also be taking no antibiotics and also have no intestinal pathology, so like no existing IBS or inflammatory bowel disease or anything like that.
But if they get a bit of a dodgy tummy, that's alright.
Depends how frequently, but yeah, I imagine that was okay.
Like a
Yeah.
one-off is fine.
Like after
Now.
after a few drinks, yeah, that's okay. Most people lie about that in these type of studies, so it's a classic case of I think one of the most underreported things usually are alcohol intake, which I can testify to. Do you ever, you know when your doctor asks you how often do you drink and how much do you drink?
Yeah,
I never tell the truth.
Round it down.
Oh god, yeah. Round it down to like the nearest 10. Like
It's 5.
Thing is, my problem is,
5
it's
is
not. I can't tell him a weekly unit number, but if I gave him like an overall unit number in one go, that would be bad.
That'd be binge drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I would like, they'd be like, what's the most amount of drinks you'd have at a time? And I'd be like, 7 or 8?
Yeah.
What's normal?
Like,
What's
no,
normal?
No. Yeah, you're racking your brains to think like, okay, what's the right answer?
I'm really with her, like, yeah, a whole bottle of gin and like 5 tequila shots.
I have one small glass of red wine and dinner 3 times a week.
Okay, if anybody's listening and is going to partake in scientific research, don't do what I am saying right now, please, because we don't invite underreporting, please. It's okay to do it with your doctor, though, that's fine.
Definitely not. Do not follow that advice.
Just not in scientific research.
Be honest with your doctor, they are not judging you.
Oh, God,
Unless
no.
you come in with something really weird.
And they're definitely judging you.
Yeah.
But like, they probably are always judging you, but they just don't care. Like,
Yeah.
you're a small part of their life.
Yeah.
That's my take.
They're not even going to remember you next week.
It's kind of like, you know, when people always get embarrassed to get their bikini waxes done and stuff. But really, those women have seen like 20 badgers that day.
Oh, God, yeah.
Anyway.
What if yours is really weird though?
Wait,
not that mine is.
No, anyone's told me that.
I think you always just have to think they've seen weirder.
Yeah, for sure.
Even if they haven't.
Yeah.
Just think that.
Definitely had a bikini waxer tell me she used to work on a cruise ship and she's had women that are so big she was genuinely a bit like, ooh, where is it?
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
Oh, like you'd have to... Oh, no.
Yeah, like she had to dig around for it.
Oh, God. I don't know who that would be worse for.
Her. Absolutely her. This is just lying down, chilling out.
Yeah, I suppose.
Pain-free for a good while.
Whilst they find it.
Oh, dear. So, yeah, they were the inclusion criteria, and then they measured their dietary intake just to make sure they were telling the truth. So they did this by a dietary food frequency questionnaire over 14 days. So that's like a questionnaire that would ask you retrospectively, so that would be, you do it after 14 days, and it asks you over the last 14 days, like how often did you eat this, how often did you eat this, etc, etc.
Imagine they get a lot of lying there.
Yeah, but
Like-
it's quite difficult to remember as well.
I ate no biscuits the last 2 weeks.
I
Not-
don't eat
Not a
biscuits.
single piece of chocolate crossed my lips.
Yeah.
No. So yeah, that is a big thing in nutritional studies and something that we've
Do you know what we
discussed
need?
before.
We need someone who can make metabolomics really cheap.
Yeah, but it's just not
So metabolomics
so
is
expensive.
basically when you can test sort of nutritional markers in someone's blood. So you can take a blood sample from someone, measure the nutritional markers, and then it sort of tells you what's in there. It's also got loads of flaws.
Yeah.
But it's somewhat a little bit more reliable than maybe self-reported.
Yeah, so it's an objective measure of your dietary intake. So it's like taking out the risk of underreporting, lying about how many biscuits you ate, or chocolate,
But
or
it's-
alcohol.
But it's super expensive.
Or use like MyFitnessPal.
Yeah.
Other trackers are available.
So things like that.
Fitbit sponsor.
People still will underreport a little bit. There's no way really of like getting rid of that completely. But what this study did is, because they acknowledged that asking people to remember what they ate over the last 14 days might not be the most reliable thing ever, they also did a 24-hour recall. So that would be a shorter one, like a 24-hour. Asking them what they ate over the past 24 hours. So it's a bit more specific. And then what they would have
How
done...
many hours?
24, did I say?
You said it like 5 times.
Oh, sorry. So it was for 24 hours, just in case you're wondering. So this 24-hour recall would have been used to like assess the reliability of the 14-day one. But the reason they needed the 14-day one is because they just needed a broader spectrum of days and dietary intake. But they used the 1-day one because that'd be more reliable to make sure that it matched up to the 14-day one.
Because people would remember it more.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you'd remember more. I'd remember better what I ate yesterday than I would remember what I ate 2 weeks ago.
That's how good the meal was.
Yeah, true.
Good
true.
meal.
Yeah.
Remember it.
Yeah.
Do you know what's also a really good tool? So there's this thing called ecological momentary assessment, which is I was actually going to use it for my study, and then we didn't go for it in the end because we wanted to save money because it's quite expensive. But it's basically there are several companies that provide these apps that you can then build yourself that will pop up and ask participants questions, and you can design what they're asking, what sort of answers they can give when the apps pop up and that kind of thing. That kind of thing would be really good as well. So they use it a lot for assessing the impact of things right in that very moment that's happening to people.
Would they use it for like emotional type things?
A lot
like
of that,
psychology and stuff?
And they use it for a lot of environmental, urban things. But yeah, it's quite expensive, and also there's lots of issues about data protection and blah blah blah.
Oh yeah, because it's online.
Yeah.
On the food diaries, why does it matter what they're eating? Surely it just matters if they're vegetarian.
Yeah, but what they're eating, so they use this later on in the study to basically explain the results that they got from the poo samples. So we'll get to it in a moment. It will all become clear. Yeah, they measured their dietary intake, and then they also got them to collect a poo sample. So this poo sample, they provided them with some gloves and 2 sterile pots. And they instructed them to scoop approximately 50 grams of poo into each pot.
Why can't they just shit into a pot?
I know. I felt quite bad for the participants.
50 grams is quite specific.
It's very
Yeah.
small as well.
And you have to take, your bathroom scales are not going to weigh 50 grams. You don't have to take that into your
I think
kitchen.
I just would guesstimate.
I would just get
That's
like
their problem. I do a research study for the good of science. I'm not going to weigh my shit.
Why did they do it like this?
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Not my problem.
I don't know, like as much as I enjoy taking a shit, the last thing I want to do is stick my hand in there and pick out a handful.
Yeah, I suppose like the researchers were probably trying to make
And-
it easier for themselves.
And you've then got shit on your glove that you're
Classic
going to have to
Italians.
throw away in your house.
Yeah, but like that's the same as throwing away a baby's dirty nappy.
I've got a
I think
baby.
it's worse.
Yeah,
I'm not interacting with that much shit every day.
Well, my participants give me their whole poos.
Are you doing it the way that we used to do it before? When I worked on a study where we collected poo samples, we gave them a tub with a sandwich bag inside it, and then they'd go do a poo into the tub.
Like a
and
urine
then,
sample.
and then they give
Yeah.
it to us, and we just take out the sandwich bag, and there's their poo.
And then you weigh it yourselves because
Yeah.
you're
That's your
our
job.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have never given a stool sample
No.
before.
Me neither.
But to be honest, so what? You
I think
just
it's okay.
hold it. I mean, do you just hold it below you? Like, it's not really awkward.
I think
Yeah, because
So-
how do you sit on the toilet?
I don't think I feel relaxed enough.
So the way we instruct people to do it is we give them a whole kit. So you have like a paper plate, but it's quite a stiff paper plate. So so quite a high quality paper plate, right? So
No Wilco.
no Welcos. This is the finest. Like I don't know what would be a good brand.
Waitrose.
It's Waitrose. Yeah. If Wilco's is little, these plates are definitely Waitrose.
Like an Oliver bonus plate.
Yeah, exactly. It's Oliver Bonus.
Waitrose sponsor us.
Yeah, Waitrose. Shout out to Waitrose.
Your plates are great for fecal collection.
Perfect. So we give them a plate down in your toilet. So you know, like your toilet bowl. So you
That's
wedge,
quite good.
you wedge the plate down, and then you put the pot on the plate, and then you put the bag in the pot with the handles like over the sides.
What if it's a messy
Aim.
one?
Yeah.
So yeah, then you wear gloves at the same time, and then you're supposed to sit down and you're supposed to poo, and it's all supposed to go nicely into the pot with no spillages whatsoever, and it's all beautiful and wonderful. And also, you're not allowed to pee, because if you pee, you contaminate the whole sample.
No, but
That's
everyone
what I
knows
do. Oh my God.
when you poo, a little bit of pee
Yeah,
always comes out.
always.
Yeah, but you're contaminating the sample. You can't. You have to void your bladder prior.
And also,
to
do you
your
know what
stool
else?
sample.
You know your participants. You just
Yeah.
know that they've been walking through London with a shit in their bag.
Yeah, you know what? Someone told me that back in the past. So some studies would get you to collect all your poo for like 2 weeks, say, if it's like a kind of a chronic type study, to see how it would change. And obviously, like, you don't want your participants to be trekking in to wherever your research department is with every poo they do, especially, like, you know, some people poo more than once a day, etc. So, and you don't want to be trekking out to a million people's houses to get all their
Imagine
poos.
walking through London with 14 shits in your bag.
So guess what? Guess what they used to get them to do?
Addison
Post it.
Lee.
Keep it under their bag.
Corporate rate.
No, that shit's expensive. You can't afford
Literally.
that. Yeah, exactly. So no, you keep it under your bed.
What?
All your poo, you just leave it under your bed.
I've got a similar story. My housemate on placement year, he did a typhoid study and he kept it in the fridge.
Wait, a typhoid study?
Maybe, I can't remember.
Did they give him
Poo
typhoid?
in the fridge?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
In my fridge.
Sometimes you have to keep it in the freezer because it needs to be frozen so that you
I
deactivate
feel like
the
freezer's a
microbiota.
little bit more acceptable than
Than the
keeping it in the
fridge.
communal fridge.
Yeah, the fridge in my house.
On my shelf. It was his shelf.
Yeah, I didn't have shelves, Teddy. It was rogue.
Oh,
No man's land.
a rogue poo. Oh no.
Yeah.
Imagine if like, I don't know, because I just know at home, when I'm at home in my house, like in Ireland, when I go back and like, the first thing I do is I open the fridge and I like go through it and see what my mom
Open all
has.
the Tupperware.
And I'm like, oh, what's in here? Like literally opening all the Tupperware. Oh god.
I never saw it, I just heard of it being there.
Oh Jesus.
So at least I haven't got that visual in my head.
Oh, that'd be awful.
Kyle, if you're listening, that was gross.
Kyle, you sound like an awful housemate. Anyway, yes, so they got their poo. So they analysed it using sequencing, which is much better than the old methods of analysing fecal microbiota, which was by culture.
Just go, oh, looks alright. Smells a bit off.
Okay, this one's a funny colour. So no, basically what they used to do is like, you know, like I don't know, did you guys say you did science subjects for your?
I did a science degree.
Oh, you did a
Do you
degree.
remember? Jesus.
Okay, yeah, short-term memory's not great. So yeah, you guys did a bit of science. So, and you were in a lab, weren't you? Did you ever do?
Yeah.
But you were doing chemistry.
No, my placement was actually about bacteriophage
Oh shit. Okay, so
and antibiotic resistance.
yeah. So
yeah.
did you do like culturing? Like,
Yeah.
did you grow? Yeah,
I
yeah.
did so much culturing.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
smells really bad, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was almost sick in the lab
Yeah.
many times.
Yeah.
I know no one likes mould, but I really hate mould, like famously hate mould. And I was just surrounded by plates and
You
plates
were
of mould
of mould.
all the time. Constantly it's growing out. Constantly.
So yeah. So where was I going with that first sentence?
So we've done
Sequencing.
science.
Oh yeah, they used to use culture methods, but that was like really not great because some of the bacteria that live in your digestive system are anaerobic, so they can't live in oxygen. So the minute that you poo out the bacteria, they die. So there was whole big groups of species missing. It was like just really imperfect. So now they're trying to come up with better and better methods all the time, and none of them are like 100% perfect just yet. But we're getting there, slowly but surely. So yeah, they use sequencing, which is a strength of the study. So they found that vegetarians had increased richness. So I'm going to use another
So
little...
they're not spending all their money on meat.
Hell
So
yeah.
they were...
Deliciously ill, have you seen her? She's moving.
Like her bacteria all live in like nice little mansions in there in her gut. All drive
Gold-plated shit.
very nice gold-plated shit, really nice cars, like, you know, they just live a nice life.
And
So
that's expensive because they breed like crazy.
yeah, exactly.
Just bacteria.
They're just breeding. I love the sound
That's
effect.
now the universal sound effect for breeding.
Brilliant.
Shooting them out.
So, yeah, richness, like, to explain it, a metaphor, I'm going to use a metaphor, is that the
Okay.
right word?
Yeah.
Metaphor.
Well, we'll find out if it's the right word.
If you consider a fruit bowl, so one fruit bowl has 10 pieces of fruit, but half of them are bananas and half of them are apples. That is low richness. Another fruit bowl has 10 pieces of fruit, but it has 2 pieces of banana. Or no, sorry, 2 bananas, 2 apples, 2 oranges, 2 kiwis, 2...
Kumquats.
2 kumquats. So that would be high richness. So it's basically like it's a measure of diversity. So you've got loads of different types. So you basically have loads of different strains of bacteria.
In
And
your poo.
different. Yeah.
Okay.
But also what's in your poo would also be in your gut.
And this is probably, I'm assuming this is because as a vegetarian, you probably have the biggest variety in your diet, right?
Yeah, and so what would influence your bacteria the most would be fibre. And because vegetarians would eat a lot of fruit and vegetables, they get a lot of fibre. Also, polyphenols have been shown to influence the bacteria. Polyphenols are chemicals that are found in loads of things. Like they're what famously makes red wine and dark chocolate good for you. So they're really high in polyphenols. Also, they're really high in berries. They're quite high in extra virgin olive oil. They're high in a lot of things. So obviously, well, I don't know if vegetarians drink that much red wine and eat dark chocolate, but they would eat a lot of berries, I would assume. And then they have like a lot of fibre. And because not all fibres are equal. So like fibre you get from a pepper is going to be different from fibre you get from a sweet potato.
I did not know that.
Yeah, fibre is like a million things. Just to blow your mind. There's so many different types of fibre. And that's why now there's a big kind of health message where they say, you know, you need a really wide variety. So it's not enough just to eat like 10 carrots every day. You have to eat like a carrot, an apple, a banana, start throwing out different, what's all your favourite veg? A kumquat, a few more veg.
Courgette,
aubergine, carrots, broccoli.
cauliflower.
Yeah, so they're all going to have like slightly different fibres in them. And the thing about that's different, so each of your different strains and types of microbiota are going to metabolize different fibres. So sometimes, say if you're only eating carrots, you're only going to be feeding one, in very broad terms, you're only going to be feeding one group of your microbiota.
Is this why, you know these people that live off one thing forever, and then they try something new and then they get the shits and they get really sick? Is that why? Because then they don't have the bacteria to deal with it.
They're just fussy and annoying, aren't they? Those people. Like adults that eat chicken nuggets.
Yeah, it probably is because your microbiota adapts to your diet.
I see.
So you're not going to have the right microbiota. They're not going to be able to handle it, basically. And that's why people who go from low fibre diets to high fibre diets really fast, that's never good. You need to build it up slowly.
Like, so if I've never had a vegetable before...
Any vegetables at all?
No, but if I've never had a particular vegetable before, it's new to me.
Yeah.
And I eat it, how do I ever get that bacteria in my body? Is it on the vegetable?
No, so you might actually already have it in your system.
Have it inside myself?
Yeah, you might already have it in there.
That's so weird.
I just don't even know what's inside of me.
There's a lot. There's like more cells in you've more bacterial cells than human cells.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, like by a factor of 10 or something.
Jesus.
Crazy amount, yeah. So yeah, what you were saying, you might actually have the bacteria, but you'd have them in really small amounts. Or they might kind of be dormant, or,
So are they dormant? Is that because the way you were talking about feeding the bacteria? So they're dormant because you're not eating that food, so
yeah, so they can't thrive basically.
Okay.
So you're not feeding them, so a lot of them die off. They might die off completely, or they might remain in like really small numbers, waiting for you to eat their favorite fibre. Also, I'm talking in very broad terms here, so like there's not going to be only one group of you've like so many different types of bacteria. So, like, carrots are going to feed a lot of, but not all of them necessarily.
is it just
in broad terms
fibre that this applies to? Or is it like, you know, if you eat spicy food, some people can't deal with spicy food?
So, yeah, different things, because the main reason I'm saying fibre is so in terms of macronutrients, so like protein, carbs, and fat, most of them are going to be absorbed in your upper gastrointestinal tract. Anything that's absorbed in your upper gastrointestinal tract, that's your small intestine, won't make it to your large intestine, which is where the majority of your gut bacteria are. All of them, pretty much. And so food that is absorbed in your small intestine isn't available for them, but fibre you don't absorb, so that's why their main food source is going to be fibre. But anything that makes it to your large intestine can be used by the microbiota, hypothetically. Fibre is the best study because we know that it always reaches more or less the large intestine. But things like fat and protein, to our knowledge, completely absorbed. There's a lot of research coming out that that's not necessarily the case, especially in certain like plant foods where the plant cells have really strong walls and you can't break them down during digestion. So actually those cells make it to your large intestine and the contents of those cells can then be used by the bacteria. So that could include fat and protein. So that's why I'm saying in theory they can use them, but there just isn't that much research. So yeah, basically they had an increased richness. So they had more variety. This is probably down to the fibre. But when they looked at the whole community composition of the 3 different diets, they were quite similar. So similar that you couldn't tell them apart by just looking at their profiles. So, vegetarians, vegans, and omnivores.
So is that saying that you get just as much nutrients from each diet?
So this is why they measured the information on their diet over 14 days, because they wanted to match up and see, you know, if there was a significant, because there was no difference, I guess. They were looking at, is there no difference in the nutritional composition of their diet? And in this cohort, they actually found that there wasn't.
I feel like you would have gotten very different results if you did this in, like, the US.
Yeah, you see, that's the thing. That's a limitation, because it's such a small...
Yeah.
First of all, the sample size, so a few other studies have looked at comparing vegetarian, vegan, and omnivore diets. And they all kind of found, some studies say there is no difference, some studies say there are, some studies use different measurement methods so they can't be directly compared. So there's a lot of conflicting evidence, but this was the largest sample size that was
Yeah.
used, and also the fact that they were looking at could you specifically differentiate between the three groups based on their
'Cause in my head, Italians have a much bigger variety in their diet compared to, say, an American omnivore or like even a UK omnivore.
Uh-huh.
But I also think that probably all Italians eat similar stuff.
Pasta and pizza.
No.
And gelato.
That's, a bit of generalisation, Jenny. No, but they all have that like Mediterranean diet, don't they? They're all eating the same kind of foods.
Yeah,
Whereas like in the
generally
UK, there's
healthy.
a much bigger range of like
Yeah.
you could have a vegetarian who eats just like loads and loads of Chinese food,
Yeah.
and then an omnivore who eats loads of like burgers or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we have a bigger range of food here. I feel like, but I don't know.
That's probably true. But then that's kind of like then how there's loads of these UK population studies. They consider London like its own separate
Yeah, it's like its
thing.
own...
because everything is so different in London compared to the rest of the UK.
And that is how you critically analyse. So yeah, that would be like a really big limitation, that their population. So in one way it's a good thing because they're keeping a lot of things the same, and the one thing that looking at that's different is their dietary behaviour, so whether they're vegan, vegetarian or omnivore. But in another sense, like we've all just discussed, that's a really big limitation because you can only really apply those findings to Italian. You can't apply them to anyone else really. So yeah.
Yeah, because if the nutritional value of all their food is basically the same, then there is no real difference.
Yeah, but
essentially
they
the
look-
same building block.
The building blocks, but then there's a lot of different things. So in building blocks in terms of protein, carbs and fat, but they could be coming from very different sources.
They end these papers with a next step is going to be.
Next time in nature.
And next stage.
So they usually would sometimes give like future directions. Normally try and make kind of a grand statement about how important this particular research is and the groundbreaking
We need to make ourselves feel better about
work
the
that
we're
we've
doing.
done. Yeah, we do, because this sounds all very simple, but probably took years, and there was a lot of poo that had to be waded through. So,
But not
By the
ways.
participants.
No.
and not my participants though. I'm doing that for them.
And would they do they normally do that, or is it just that anyone does that? They can take what you found and then carry on.
Yeah, once you get funding, basically. Funding makes the world go round. But usually a lab or a research group will focus on a very specific thing, like Uri's research group are hippocampal neurogenesis. The research group that I'm in are called diet and gastrointestinal health, so we'll be very interested in the microbiome. I also work with a lot of dietitians, so they're really focused on like FODMAP diets and IBS and IBD, that kind of thing. So yeah, usually you'll stay on track and you'll always try and further your own research, but you can't stop other groups from...
So do you ever find that you're
Snaking
doing
in.
research and then someone else brings out a paper?
Oh, yeah.
Shit, that's
all
what I'm
the
doing.
time.
Yeah.
There's a huge competition.
What journal was this published in?
This was published in
I like when they're really niche, like the Italian vegan research journal or something. But it's like only these guys get in this journal.
So this was published in Frontiers in Microbiology.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh,
Yeah.
Frontiers, that's a good name.
Not
Frontiers
plus
is very
one.
good.
Paving the way.
Thank you, Alice.
No problem.
you.
Yay! Alice started her own applause.
No, I didn't start it.
She just clapped first.
Someone else started clapping, might have been in my head. I just had to continue.
So, my paper is called Interbrain Cortical Synchronization Encodes Multiple Aspects of Social Interaction in Monkey Pairs. So,
Interbrain. What?
quick, my paper does deal with monkey experiments. So if you don't like that, you can leave now.
I'm sorry, but I'm morally opposed to that.
Well, you're going to have to leave.
I don't know why I said that because I don't know. I've never thought about it before, so now I feel like I'm committing. It's an opinion. Do the whole bit.
So just in brief, this paper basically looks at another way of basically seeing that when animals are in a social interaction or a social activity together, their brains actually synchronize. So
With each other.
with each other,
Different monkeys.
different monkeys.
So kind of like they're telepathic.
kind of.
Jesus, monkeys are great.
I mean, it also applies to what?
Have you ever seen Planet of the Apes?
Yeah, not the original.
No, the new ones are quite good though.
You know, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is the only movie I've ever seen with my dad where he hasn't fallen asleep halfway through.
Oh, that is saying something.
Yeah,
Which one was that? Was that the one
the
where...
first one.
Tom Felton, I believe.
Yeah.
And Andy Serkis.
Is he
Yeah.
in it?
He does play... I think he plays
Wait,
Caesar.
he's in it.
He's an 8.
Oh,
he
he's
plays
Caesar.
Caesar.
Yeah.
He's really good at green screen stuff, apparently.
Yeah, he's really cool. He did Gollum.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically a little bit of background on this is that in other studies they've seen that observing behaviour of others is essential for primates, and that includes humans. So a big thing of how they live or interact with each other is first by observing what the other person or monkey is doing. And then all these previous experiments have shown that the monkey that is observing someone doing an action, their neurons will respond as if they themselves have performed the action.
Oh shit!
Yeah, and they call these mirror neurons.
Oh my god! Wait, so is that like when I see someone doing something and then I imagine myself doing it?
Maybe. And you know,
Is
this
it like
also...
when you sneeze and then you want to sneeze, or you?
Oh, yeah.
No, I think that's different.
Oh, okay.
Or like when you yawn and someone
Yeah.
else needs to yawn.
But this did remind me of so when my mum watches TV, for example, and they eat on TV, you know when they open their mouth to bring the spoon to their face, my mum will also open her mouth.
Really?
Watch it, yeah.
That's
sometimes-
so cute.
Yeah, so she'll sit there, she'll be like... Or like, do you ever find yourself watching TV and someone's talking, you're there like nodding along to what
Yeah,
they're saying?
yeah,
Yeah. I wonder if it's something similar to that.
Or sometimes I obviously if people laugh, you laugh too. But I also kind of catch myself making similar facial expressions to people on TV sometimes.
Yeah, I wonder if there's anything to do with that. Anyway, so then the problem that they find with all these previous experiments that have been done is they've only ever been able to get single unit recordings. So this means they can only record one monkey at a time. So what these guys did is they created a wireless multi-channel system.
Stop it. What is this? It sounds not real. It's like...
This is some futuristic
They
shit.
shot like a colander on like a monkey's head.
Wait, it gets better.
With some twine.
Yeah, no, it's a wireless neural system, aren't they?
And some
Tin cans.
Some tin cans on either end. They talk to each other.
So they have
That's how you do science.
That is science. They have this wireless multi-channel system that can record brain activity from two monkeys at the same time. So this is new for this study. This is what this study these guys have now brought to the monkey brain recording world. So then the test that they used is what they call a whole body navigation. And so they have one monkey who's a passenger, and this passenger is carried around in a motorised wheelchair
Oh, the dream.
to collect grapes as their reward. And then they have an observer who watches the passenger, but they have an incentive to watch the passenger because as soon as the passenger gets their grapes, they get given some juice. So they're both rewarded. So they're both.
That's so exciting.
They're both rewarded.
Don't they get a grape as well?
I don't know.
Amazing. They'll be like, I'm getting the juiced grape. Like, it's probably messing with their lines.
So a little bit about the monkeys that they used. They were rhesus macaques. So they're the kind of bigger grey versions of Marcel from Friends, right? They kind of look like Marcel from Friends, but slightly bigger and grey. So
You've
they've
said
got
the same thing twice. Two-sided.
Just rearrange the words.
Yeah.
so they're kind of medium size. You know, have you seen the pictures of the monkeys in Malaysia at the temple?
Yeah.
It's those monkeys.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen those pictures.
They're like grey
Sorry.
they're small and grey with like long skinny tails, and they've got a bald-ish face with like tufts of hair coming out around them.
And slightly bigger than Marcel.
Yeah.
Is that his name?
Yeah. When I was there, they were just they were all
steel thing.
having sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was there, they just all had babies.
That's because they were all having sex when I was there.
I think we need to have a talk about where babies come from.
That deserves a whole episode.
So there were...
What country was this in?
This was in America. It was at Duke University. Which is based in Durham, North Carolina. So they had 3 female monkeys: Monkey C, Monkey K, and Monkey J. Monkey C is the most dominant, followed by Monkey K, and Monkey J is the most submissive.
What is that
how
about?
do they know? How do they work that out?
Because there's behaviour involved in it.
So that's their natural personality.
That is their natural... When they're just in their little, like, wherever
Monkey
roaming
world,
around.
having a
Monkey
great time.
world.
Yeah.
C is the alpha female.
Okay.
And then it's K, and then it's J. And that's all done through behaviour and how they interact with each other. So that's naturally what happens in the monkey kingdom.
So is C the one that's in the wheelchair? Not the wheelchair, though.
You'll find
Right.
they swap around.
That's nice.
So what they do is they implant the monkey brains with multiple cortical multi-electrode arrays. So this is a device through which neural signals in your brain can be recorded. So basically what that means is when when neurons get excited, they create these electrical currents, and this device, these implants that they put in the monkey's brain, can pick up those electric currents and record them.
Basically a measure of your brain activity.
So it only knows when there's information moving, it doesn't know what
there's
it's
always
related to.
It will know where the information is coming from, not necessarily where it's going to, because they'll put the implants in specific areas of their brain, and they can know which area of the brain is firing. And also, just because a neuron is giving off electrical activity doesn't mean it's necessarily completing the message. It's just having a little like boop, boop moment. Okay. Yeah.
And am I right in saying different areas of your brain are in control of different functions?
Yes. So in this one, they're looking specifically at the motor cortex, so that's in control of your movement and your motor skills. Mm-hmm. So the way they tested this was C and monkey K, so the dominant monkey and the second dominant monkey, and then C and J, so the dominant monkey and the most submissive monkey. So that's the pairs that they tested them in. So what happens at the experiment is these monkeys are in a big-ish room. It's 5 meters by 3.9 meters, if anyone's interested. And the observer has a chair in the corner of the room, and they're stationary. They don't do anything, they just watch the passenger. The passenger is in a chair that's mounted on an electric cart, and then they can...
like a choo-choo train.
Or like a milk float.
And they navigate through the room towards the grape dispenser. When they collect the grape, then the observer also gets juice. And then they'll do this again, but alternate the balls.
The monkey navigate.
See, okay, I found this really confusing. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't read the methods properly. Because in this one, they says the passenger navigates towards, and then another one, it says it's on an automatic trajectory. So I don't know. But I think the monkey navigates themselves because they get rewarded.
So they've got like a little joystick.
Maybe.
And there's a human observer sat on a chair.
No, that's another monkey.
Oh,
that's it.
I was like, what a weird job. Just sitting there like, just watching what's going on.
Imagine being a scientist that's the observer, and then you wait for the monkey to get your grapes so you can have your juice.
I thought he fed the monkey the juice or something. I was like,
got my juice.
No, so they're both monkeys, a monkey passenger and monkey observer. Mm-hmm. So then, basically, what they found from this is that during the social task, when they're interacting with each other by watching each other, or one person's doing the task and the other one's watching, for example, then these brains have episodes of being highly synchronized with each other. So what that means is that they have pools of neurons in their motor cortex that are firing at the same time, and this is what they call interbrain cortical synchronization.
That's so weird, isn't it? It's like one monkey's just sitting there thinking he's moving a wheelchair on a milk float.
Is that what it is? What the monkey's doing? It's thinking, oh, you're nearly at the grape.
Mm-hmm. So what they think that this might be is it's more actually about how they think it's an innate thing in us. That's how one of the ways that we socially interact as animals and primates is that by observing other people, our brains synchronize, and that's one way that we interact. And one thing that it could be involved in is learning by observation. Mm. So when we see someone doing something and they get a reward from it, we learn by observing them that if I do that as well, I'll get the reward. What they say in this paper is it could possibly be that the dopaminergic effect, so the happy hormone effect that you get from watching someone else get a reward, might facilitate sort of transfer of knowledge from one primate to another, one person to another.
So are they kind of saying that if they took the reward out of this situation, it might not work the same?
Possibly.
Okay.
Is that also that if the monkey that's I can't remember what you called it in the chair.
The passenger
got the reward, but the observer didn't get the reward.
It might not be as strong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there not a jealousy factor?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I'll get my hands on a juicy grape.
Yeah, like
Possibly.
when you were saying, if you see someone getting an award and you get happy. But sometimes I'm like a little bit happy, but really I'm like, I wish I was getting that award.
Yeah, but then you're also learning, well, fine, if I do what they do, then I will get that reward.
True.
Yeah.
True.
And so, kind of on what you were saying, is that there's social conditions like autism, where your social learning is disrupted. That's what they think, where they might be not working properly, or the synchronization isn't happening properly in conditions like autism because their social skills aren't as developed.
So they don't know how to interact because they can't observe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it could that could be the same with I guess reaction, because
yeah, I guess so.
do you know the way I'm just saying in terms of autism, because I think if you have autism, you're not great at reading people's
well, I guess
social
because
cues.
you would observe someone being happy that they got something, and if you're autistic, you might not know.
Yeah.
When they studied exactly when these synchronization episodes are happening, they realised there are specific things that could help them predict when the synchronization would happen. So, for example, when the way the wheelchair moves or where it's positioned triggered synchronization, and then the distance between the monkeys triggered synchronization, and this could be a big thing to do with dominance. So what they found was when dominant monkey C was the passenger, the synchronization became bigger and bigger and bigger as they approached each other, and it peaked when they were at 3 foot distance from each other. And 3 foot is the distance at now where they are at arm's length, so they can either attack or groom.
Oh.
So they're kind of seeing it as they put it in a really nice phrase here. They put that 3 feet as the zone of potential conflict. Because what happens naturally is dominant monkeys will freely roam around, whereas the submissive monkeys generally stick to their own space, so that they will avoid conflict. So they think that the synchronization that's happening here can show who's dominant, because, yeah.
It's like in, Love Island or something. And you have the big dogs who just, own the place.
Yeah.
The ones who sort of always sit on the sun lounges.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're submissive. They're just I'm too scared.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for Love Island to come back.
Same.
I can't wait.
Did I tell you I saw Olivia in London?
Yeah, but I didn't watch that season.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought it was the other Olivia.
Oh, no.
Are the Camilla and Jamie
They're still together. Isn't that crazy?
I believe it because she's a trier. So I feel like even if it wasn't going to work, she was going to try and push through,
Yeah, but I also...
She's not taking no
she
for an
loves
answer.
a project.
That sounds like the most unsexy thing ever. A relationship as a project. Oh god. Does he feel okay about being single?
So then one of the flaws that they think could be happening here is that there's loads of uncontrolled factors that could contribute to the synchronization. So that includes eye and head movements, or when the monkeys smack their lips, or facial expressions and eye contact, for example. That could all impact the synchronization that they're seeing. So it's not necessarily due to this movement or the activity that they're doing. It could be due to these other things that they're seeing that this synchronization is happening.
Can you
But
please...
that's still an activity though, so why is that different?
I think because that's more of a natural thing that happens.
And that's like a
it's like
reflex.
a reaction.
Okay.
Yeah, like a reflex, whereas the task is
like yawning.
and the task is more of a genuine social interaction.
Okay.
Whereas these facial expressions aren't. So then, in humans, the way they've tried to do this is not in this paper, but in just general, is they've done imaging of the brain and electrical recordings of the brain from the surface of your brain, and then basically they found that with people, when they're watching the same movie clip, for example, they also have this synchronization. So it's definitely a thing that happens.
Do they get grapes?
Or juice.
I think
Just watching someone eating grapes, though. No.
Or Pringles. You get rewarded with some Pringles.
Pringles would be good.
Oh.
Only if there's sour cream and chive, though.
No, salt vinegar.
Yeah, salt vinegar.
But also, what if you're lying down?
Wait, hang on. Can we just address this, please?
You'd be lying down.
Because you're getting your brain scanned to be lying down,
yeah.
right?
Not
Not
necessarily.
Oh, that's fine then.
With EEG, which is when they put the pads on your head, you wouldn't be lined up.
Oh, so you can eat Pringles safely.
Yeah.
EEG.
No choking hazard.
That's fine then.
Sample.
Electroencephalography.
Because this ECG is your cardio.
Yeah.
Echocardiogram.
Electrocardiography.
Echocardiogram.
Echocardiogram. And then these guys went ahead in the paper and coined a term, which they're calling BrainNet.
Oh,
which
Is
to
that
me,
a pattern?
yeah.
possibly,
Yeah.
Why
which
not?
to me sounds like something from the Terminator.
Oh,
Skynet.
Yeah.
So
Or it sounds like, from the early days of the internet, when people shove the word net on anything.
Yeah. So they call it the BrainNet, and this is the term they've coined for when you have a chain of synchronized veins. So this, what they call social connectivity between these multiple brains, might be strengthened or weakened by this synchronization. So the fact that when you're in a group, that all your brains are sort of connecting, synchronizing. Maybe this synchronization is what's allowing everyone to connect in a social being.
Like how we're all thinking about Pringles right now.
Exactly.
And we're connecting socially. It's bringing us closer together.
Exactly.
We don't even know.
Our brains proper in sync right now. Are our brains breeding?
That's my pew 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 firing noise.
So they're saying that this brain net forms when there's repetition of a social interaction. This could reshape the connectivity of an entire social group. So then where they want to take this in the future is so that they could diagnose or maybe look at different treatments for conditions where this neuronal mirroring might not follow typical patterns such as autism. I find these links a bit
Yeah, because they looked at two monkeys, and how do they jump?
And now they're curing autism.
Yeah. This is the bit.
This is the what were we saying earlier?
This is the bit at the end where they've put in to make themselves feel better about their work.
The
Then
grand,
it's
justify
the
it.
grand
Yeah.
statement.
Yeah.
The funders.
Exactly.
Exactly for the funders.
Yeah, makes the world go round. So they could maybe diagnose or look at how effective treatments are for things like autism. They think they could also reveal how well groups work together and what type of training works for them. So if you have a football team, for example, you can see when their brains are, what type of training causes...
Stop it.
I know.
Stupid. If you all watch David Beckham getting his goal, you'll all get a grade.
Your fairy godmother will appear.
Yeah, or even things like if you have an audience setting, you can use this synchronization to see what sort of entertainment or whatever causes all their brains to synchronize and they're all responding in the same.
Is this why when I watch lots of Keeping Up the Kardashians, I become really basic? It's so true as well. I watch it, I've just become one of them.
This is like when The Only Way is Essex first came out and I proper watched the first season. And I had to stop because I genuinely felt like my IQ was dropping. So yeah, that is my paper.
Have we summed up this paper though?
Yeah, we've summarised.
Okay.
Like, you can then work out
me.
sports teams.
Yeah, sports teams will all become
And
great.
David Beckham.
We'll cure autism.
We'll
all become the Kardashians. Who would you like to be?
Chloe.
I want to be Courtney.
I want to be Kylie.
I don't really know them.
We've got one each. You can be Kim. You're classic Kim, actually.
Hi.
Really nice.
Is that a bad
No,
thing?
Kim is like the nicest one.
Oh, okay, that's...
Silent Demelza can be Kendall.
I was going to say
Oh.
she's a bit more like
That's the only sister
what's
we're
his
missing.
name? The one
Rob?
that was transgender.
Oh, Caitlin.
You can't argue.
Because I think you have quite a similar personality, pretty chilled out. In the show, he was pretty chill, right? He just flies helicopters.
He also likes Trump.
Does he?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, to be fair, Dee is a massive racist. You won't know this because she doesn't talk about it, but she really is racist.
But she's silent so she can't defend herself.
That's why she has to be silent. To stop
She's
the
turning a
racist
really
slurs.
interesting.
So yeah, do you have any final thoughts about synchronizing monkey's brain?
Or which Kardashian you'd really like to be?
Do you know what I discovered at home last week? I had a week off. Revenge Body with Khloe Kardashian.
Oh, yeah,
I've seen
yeah.
that. But it's so good. And they get celebrity trainers, meal plans.
This is bullshit. If I had the money for a celebrity trainer, I would like a bangin'.
The time.
The time is key.
I need someone to post me all my meals and not have it be extortionate.
I actually tried the posting your meals business once, because it was on offer. And also a lot of food wasn't included, so it'd be like, you can have this spaghetti bolognese or whatever, but it'd be like, oh, the pasta's not included, or like, or you'd add vegetables to it, or like...
Oh, that's really bad.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, it's quite expensive, but it's pretty good considering it's all my food.
But it's not. Because the whole point is that you don't have to do anything for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen there's loads of meal prepping Instagram accounts?
Yeah, I follow loads.
I love them.
So
Sorry. Carry on.
I was really into meal prepping for like a week.
For a week.
I love
Just
you.
prep
Did I
one
not,
lot of
though?
meals.
No, for more than maybe like 2 or 3 weeks, I did bring in meal preps every day to work.
But did you prep your breakfast, lunch and dinner?
No, just my lunches.
I prep my breakfast
Yeah,
and
but
lunch lot.
Do you not make your lunches at the beginning of the week?
No.
I try to, but sometimes it doesn't work. This week I made Daal. It's delicious.
Oh,
Yeah.
That makes me fast.
See, Jenny.
Do you rinse your lentils?
Yeah,
maybe I
I've had
do.
it.
I swear to God, if you rinse them or soak them, it gets rid of all of it because it's all the stuff on the outside.
Interesting.
It's still a little bit farty, but not as much.
Okay.
But all
It's
you
the
need to
same
do
with-
is just put them in a sieve and like run cold water over them for a while.
And chickpeas as well. Is it the
Yeah,
same with
yeah,
chickpeas?
rinse them.
Yeah, I was going to
Pulses.
say, any beans that come in cans, you need to
Yeah.
rinse them because all the gunk you get at the bottom is what makes you farty, right?
Yeah. Also, another fun fact, the liquid in chickpea cans behaves the same way as egg white.
What?
What do you mean?
You know, like chickpea water.
Yeah.
How does egg white behave?
Yeah, I know. No,
Yeah, you know, like
yeah.
it's proteiny. So it's like egg white is all protein. And you know, it's like you put it in things to make them bind.
Yeah.
So I think vegans can use chickpea water
Yeah.
instead of egg white.
That is
in
so
certain things.
interesting.
Yeah,
It
because
is a weird
chickpeas are quite
taste.
high in protein. So I think all the protein kind of leaches. This is what I imagine that happens in my brain. But I don't actually know.
That is so interesting,
Yeah.
like genuinely.
Yeah, I know.
Like I know I sound like I'm taking the piss, but that's genuinely really
You also
interesting.
look like you're taking a piss.
So
No,
interesting.
no, genuinely, that's actually really interesting. I don't know why you're friends with me sometimes. But anyway, yeah, cool. Thank you guys.
Thanks for coming. You've
well
been
fun.
It
wonderful
was fun.
guests.
It was really fun.
Good. Would you come back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, guys, something really exciting has just happened. We got our first email
Woo!
Woo! from a listener. She's Caroline. She says, "Hi, I'm really enjoying your podcast." Well, thank you, Caroline. In episode 3, you ask about looking 9-volt batteries, and I have to admit, it's totally something I've done. I do have 2 older brothers, and I'm not entirely sure it wasn't a make your little sister try it thing. Looking forward to the next episode. Caroline in Texas.
Hey, Caroline.
Hey, Caroline. Thank you for emailing us. You are our official first email.
Which we are, I don't know if you can hear it, very excited about.
We legit all kind of screamed when the email came through.
We love hearing from you.
Yeah, please email us anything. We would really appreciate it. If you listen to us on iTunes, please go rate us and subscribe, or subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to right now. And if not, you can catch us on
Instagram at Lay It Out Podcast. Email layitoutpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
And Twitter, Lay It Out Podcast is the handle. It's the handle for that.
And if you don't want to hear us and you just want to read about it,
You can go to the blog, which we didn't ever discuss what that was. I think it was layitoutpodcast@bebo.com.
at layitoutpodcast.wordpress.com.
And send us all your emails.
Oh, and CoFresh sponsor us. We ate loads of Bombay mix today while recording. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Say goodbye.
I said thank you. Goodbye. No, that sounded awful. Bye-bye. That sounded dreadful too.
Willard.
Anyone fancy a soft mint? Who owns capers? This is such a different house. You're probably such a different life to me. Pew, 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 pew.